There's a subtle lie women have been told for generations. And every time I hear it repeated, especially by women themselves, it leaves me rather unsettled. And here is it. What makes it even more dangerous is that the lie rarely comes wrapped in hostility. It's often wrapped in empathy, validation, concern, and it is preached by coaches, echoed by mentors, reinforced by their peers, woman supporting woman, amplified by therapists, and sometimes is even sanctified by religious leaders. They drum it from the pulpit. It sounds very compassionate on the surface. In fact, it's almost liberating. But beneath that language is a quiet stripping away of her agency. This woman is slowly positioned as not an independent moral being, but as someone whose entire identity is shaped by response to external forces. What we see is that over time, this thinking has produced a disturbing pattern. And what's the pattern? Everything a woman is or eventually becomes is interpreted through the lens of what a man did or failed to do. Here is it. When she's a little girl and develops unhealthy tendencies, we say immediately that, oh, these are traces that she didn't have a father. We call it daddy issues. We say her emotional instability, insecurity, her anger, her fear, even her poor choices are a product of a father's absence or his neglect to guide her. While the explanation may contain some element of truth, but do you notice that beneath that, her own agency is disappearing from the conversation? We are not looking at her person now. But here is it. When this lady grows and becomes a woman, gets into a relationship or a marriage, the responsibility therefore shifts from her father to her husband. So everything is tailored to the man. If she's bitter, if she's or disrespectful, manipulative, she's emotionally unstable, she's destructive, everything we say is what a man failed to do or what he said or what he didn't say. Again, her personhood is entirely stripped off. We say her entirety is a reaction to a man. At every stage, the narrative is just the same. She is who she is because of what someone did or didn't do. And perhaps what's even more concerning is that rarely does this conversation acknowledge her autonomy. We don't pause and ask where are our own decisions, her own habits, her own desires, her own values, her own discipline or lack of it. Does it fit into the equation? Rarely do we see her as someone who is capable of self-governance, moral reasoning, accountability, and internal growth independent of external validation or injury. And the tragedy is that many women themselves have absorbed this framework so deeply that they no longer recognize how insulting and how this projects them as some kind of puppet. We present it to them as understanding, but it's a subtle way of reducing them. Or we suggest that they are creatures permanently acted upon, people whose identity are endlessly molded or molded by others rather than individuals capable of mastering themselves. And see, once a person is conditioned to primarily see their own action as a reaction to another person, accountability will naturally fade away because every flaw, every destructive pattern can be emotionally outsourced, including her own poor choices. We will tie it to a wound, a neglectful father, an insensitive husband, a failed relationship, or a harsh society. Under this kind of framework, self-examination becomes very rare. External blame is always available because there is always somebody to blame. Now, of course, human beings are influenced by upbringing, relationship, trauma, environment, social conditioning, and no serious person will deny this. People are affected by people deeply. But there is the dangerous line between acknowledging influence and surrendering responsibility. Because the more you reinforce the idea that a woman's entire life is merely the byproduct of male behavior, the more you weaken her inner structure that should actually anchor her as an individual. Ironically, while society speaks loudly of female empowerment, autonomy, independence, agency, and the many other narratives, this particular thing that we do is undermining those ideas, because agency cannot truly exist where there is no accountability. You can't meaningfully speak of empowerment and also be saying that you are a function of what someone else did and not a consequence of your own actions. And perhaps, maybe, just maybe, this is why victimhood has become something that is deeply attractive, even as an identity for many. Because when you train someone to constantly locate the source of their life and experience outside of themselves, they never fully get into that place where they confront their own choices, their patterns, their decisions, and the behavior that shaped them into this present reality. See, at some point, we need to agree that empowerment must be more than the language of rights and validation. We must include the courage to say, yes, people affected me, but I too, I have participated in shaping the direction of my life. This reflective thought is not a piece to blame or shame, but to say, hey, how about we pause, take some time out to think and reflect. What has your participation, your activity, your inactivity, or the things you permitted, how has it contributed in shaping your current experience? I want you to take out some time and think about that. My name is Roland Ebenezer, and as always, I'm here to say, hey, think for yourself, lead your own life. It's one thought at a time. Catch you in the next one.